Hello, everybody. How's it going today? I was trying to figure out how to go live on here. Text has StreamYard, and so it took me a couple of minutes to get this rolling for everybody. So I apologize for being a little bit late, but that's okay. That's okay today because I wanted to wait for a few more people to get in chat, and we'll take it from there. Hey, you know what? This is for all you folks who are going to be listening to this later. This would be a great show. It's going to be a great encounter story. I got this. It's about a cryptid encounter that took place in the Porcupine Mountains of the Upper Peninsula. And I think it's going to be a great show or a great encounter story for you. Before we get started, though, I do want to say this really quickly. You know, as a lot of you know, I was going to be down in Las Vegas for the Spaced Out Radio party along with Dave Scott and a bunch of people. I've been inundated with emails. I've been inundated with text messages, Facebook messages. Hey, Rob, how come you're not in Vegas? Is everything okay? Life happens. About 36 hours ago, I came across something personal that happened where I couldn't make it down to Vegas. So I had to cancel. I had to cancel. And the reason that I wanted to bring this up is because I want to thank each and every one of you. You know who you are, that happen to offer whatever it is. It's a personal matter. I'm not going to get into it because I'm just going to leave it at that. But thank you to everybody that's going to listen later, listening live. Thank you very much for the support. But Bigfoot Rob is okay. He is okay. So thank you. It's not often that I put out a live show. In fact, we have 4 shows a night. We have Bigfoot Michigan Rob, my channel. Our flagship station is Texas Front Porch. We have 4 shows a week. On Monday, we have Texas Front Porch at 6:30 Central. On Wednesday, Jason McLean questions everything at 9 Central. Thursdays at noon, myself, Bigfoot Michigan Rob, we do a report with a bunch of researchers. And of course, a lot of you just finished up with Jessica Jones and her remote viewing investigations. So thank you for that. Enough of that. I'm going to get into this encounter. Again, thank you for everybody popping in today. I don't do a lot of live streams, but here we go. This is the spring summer of 2020. This is in the Porcupine Mountains. In fact, I moonlight on Spaced Out Radio on Tuesday and Thursdays about 2:15 in the morning. And sometimes I take the place of Duke Sullivan when he can't make it. And I sit alongside Dave and I give the Cryptid report. And I did this actually Tuesday on Spaced Out Radio. There's a man. Now, I got an email. Since I started our show with text, I've been doing this for 3 years now, a year with Brunch with Bigfoot. So I get a lot of emails, and a lot of these people want to remain anonymous. But they say, hey, Rob, if you want to go out and you want to go ahead and talk about my story, you can. So this person will remain anonymous. He is from Michigan in the Upper Peninsula. Again, spring, summer of 2020. His name is Jimmy. Jimmy went hiking in the Porcupine Mountains. And the place that Jimmy was hiking in was very dense, a very vast forest in the actual mountains. And yes, for those of you that are not familiar with Michigan, we do have mountains up north. And upon Jimmy's hiking, he came across a tunnel. Along the wood line, Jimmy came across like a tunnel or a big hole that was gouged out in the forest line, in the tree line. And Jimmy had decided that, hey, you know what? I'm gonna stick my head in this tunnel and see what's down in there. So Jimmy is gets on his knees and he's kind of getting into this tunnel. He's very adventurous sort and he wants to see what's going on. And he's about ready to turn back, but then all of a sudden at the end of this tunnel, or as he's forging into the tunnel, he realizes that the tunnel is getting wider, it's getting taller where he could almost stand. So Jimmy gets up, goes about 3, 4 feet in. Then all of a sudden, Jimmy got this, I don't know, he got this feeling of, I don't want to say dread, but he got an uneasy feeling that, perhaps he should turn around and leave. So Jimmy, using his senses, what he's feeling in his mind and his body, decides to turn around and leave. Now, again, mind you, the Porcupine Mountains in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan is vast. I'm not going to call it the Pacific Northwest, but I'm going to call it very lush. And to get through a lot of these wood lines, you really need to you got to find a trail an off-road trail, or you have to have some excavation equipment to get through here. So Jimmy goes home, and he's wondering about this tunnel that he found, and he wants to go back. Jimmy's inquisitive. Jimmy's an adventurous sort. Again, this is where I call from the email. I've read the email several times. He wants to go back. So Jimmy does go back, and Jimmy is back in the same area, and he's trying to penetrate this wood line. He can't get through. A machete wouldn't get through. Jimmy would need excavation equipment to start a trail. But Jimmy does remember about the big circle, the tunnel that he got into and explored, where he had the uneasy feeling about turning around and getting back. So Jimmy, frustrated, he can't find an entrance. He doesn't want to go back into this tunnel. He spent about 2 hours trying to get through the forest, get through the wood line. He says, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to go back and find that tunnel entrance. Jimmy goes back. He finds the tunnel entrance. Once again, Jimmy gets on his hands and his knees. He proceeds 3 to 4 feet in. And then, of course, as I mentioned earlier, the tunnel gets wider, gets taller. Jimmy's finally is able to stand up. So now Jimmy is walking down this tunnel line, and he doesn't know. He kind of says he loses time in the email, but he had been walking in this tunnel maybe 15 minutes. Now, mind you, you guys, 15 minutes of walking in a tunnel or anywhere, you're walking a great distance. And if I can describe what this tunnel is like, as Jimmy describes, it wasn't like a tunnel, like a cave. There wasn't any rocks. There was not a formation. It was made of foliage, the forest. There was limbs. There was leaves. And it just opened up into this expansive tunnel that he could actually walk straight up. And Jimmy says he's about 5'9" tall. And it was very dark. Now, of course, when you're walking through a tunnel made of the forest, leaves, branches, twigs, trees, it was like a prism of light came through into this tunnel. So, in other words, there were shards of light that would reflect through. So, there are parts of the tunnel that were covered in light, some that were shady, and some that were more or less luminescent. Jimmy, now going through the tunnel, notices this stench. He notices a smell. It's kind of a pungent smell, kind of like of rotting meat, but it was mixed with like body odor. It wasn't very pleasant. In fact, Jimmy, mentioning in his email, had suggested that he was about ready to throw up. So Jimmy said, enough's enough. He's going to turn around. He's going to leave, go back the other way. Moments before Jimmy decides to turn around, though, he notices the end of the tunnel, there was daybreak, there was daylight. So Jimmy thinking to himself, well, should I go another 70, 90 feet and just get out of the tunnel and just deal with the stench? Or should I go back another 50, 60 yards that he traveled? So Jimmy, not being a quitter, said, plugged his nose, held his breath. He starts foraging forward through the tunnel to the end where we saw the daylight. Jimmy takes about 3 feet or 3 steps forward where he trips and he falls. Hits the ground. When he hit the ground, he said it felt weird. It felt different. And he got up. He was kind of now. And can you imagine this, you guys? You're walking through a tunnel, not a lot of light, not a lot of visibility. He already wants to turn around because there's this putrid stench, but he decides to move forward. Now, all of a sudden, though, he falls to the ground. He trips over something. Jimmy gets up. He's a little bit frantic. Jimmy looks at his hands. His hands are covered in blood. Now, Jimmy is really getting worked up. He looks at the ground. He looks at the bottom of this tunnel, and he sees a dead carcass of a deer. Jimmy thinks it's fresh, and that's what he was smelling. In fact, to have your hands covered in blood, it probably was a fresh kill. Jimmy kind of is maybe perhaps in shock, but he decides to proceed forward. And as he's proceeding forward, he sees some other bones. He assumes they're animal bones, deer bones, whatever the case may be. He stops, and for whatever reason, he says, Rob, in the email he sent to me, Rob, I decided to turn around. I didn't want to proceed further because it didn't feel right. Well, Jimmy did not go back the way he came in because as soon as he turns around, he hears this roar. He hears this guttural sound. He turns back. He says, man, I'm going to sprint toward now the other end of the tunnel. He trips. He falls again. He gets up. Now he feels a presence in back of him coming up upon him. Jimmy gets up, turns around again for the second time. He does not have his wits about him. He sees glowing yellow eyes, and according to his email, they were spread at least a foot apart. Now, as I made mention earlier, there's not a lot of light coming through there. It's coming through as a prism. So it's partly shadowy, it's partly lit with light. He gets his focus on this creature. Now, he comes off the glowing eyes and he notices like a big head, but this head was like a head. And it seems like from the head, it had this body. Now, you have to remember in this tunnel, in this cave, however you want to call it, was relatively wide at this point. He says it's maybe 6 feet wide by maybe 5, 6 feet tall. But he distinctly tells me in the email that he sees 4 limbs spread out from the head that reach either side of the tunnel. the tunnel walls. He sees four legs, crouched down really low, hovering off the ground. He's now petrified. In the email, Jimmy makes reference that this reminded him of a big giant spider. Now, I don't know about you guys, but if I seen something like that, I don't know what I would do in that situation. But he was scared out of his mind. Jimmy says, well, I certainly can't go back toward this creature. So Jimmy decides to go where the closest exit is, which is straight ahead. Now Jimmy knows he has some basic survival skills. He knows not to run because if it's a predator, the predator's certainly going to snatch you up. They're going to go after you. They're going to think you're prey and they're going to get you. So he walks, but he walks briskly. Walks very briskly towards the end of the tunnel. But he can hear the footfall in back of him, keeping its distance, yet it was coming up in a rather rapid pace. And Jimmy was thinking to himself as he explains to me that, man, if this thing really wants to get me, it could get me. So he has all these things crossing through his mind. What is going on here? But of course, part of him is happy because he knows that he has not been snatched up or killed or whatever, or eaten. He's thinking it's a giant spider. Jimmy finally makes it to the edge of the tunnel. He gets out. He sees daybreak. He falls forward out of the tunnel and he looks around, and it's a big meadow in front of him, surrounded by the forest. In the background, you can see the mountain ridge, but he doesn't see anything else. He knows he's alone. He's by himself. There's some big creature on his tail. Jimmy gets up. He does not look back. He says he goes 50, 60, 70 feet forward. But something about Jimmy says, hey, I've got to turn around. I've got to turn around. I got to see what this is. Because he was doomed either way in his mind. So he wants to know what's going to take him down. Jimmy turns around. Now, when Jimmy turns around, he doesn't see the four-legged creature with the big yellow eyes spread apart 12 feet side to side. But what he sees is something standing on 2 feet, 2 legs. It's standing up and it's towering over this cave, this tunnel, staring at him, still with those glowing yellow eyes. Makes eye contact with this creature. This creature yells, it screams at him. Jimmy's petrified, thinking that this beast, this creature, whatever it is going to rush towards him and get him. Then it drops to the ground. Once again, on like all 4 legs spread out like a spider. And he says it darts directly into the cave. Jimmy does not know where he's at. He wished he hadn't walked through that cave. Again, it's lined with the forest. It's lined with the mountains. Jimmy says he made his way back to the interstate. Does not know how he got to the interstate. Again, he was probably in shock. Flagged down a car. Fortunately enough, the person was nice enough to give him a ride. Jimmy did not even know where his vehicle was parked, had no idea where he was. He just asked his gentleman that picked him up just to please take him home, and he would reconvene in the morning, get his vehicle. The crazy thing about this story, too, you guys, is when Jimmy the next day, the following day, went back to get his car, where he was picked up at when he got out of that tunnel and the person picked him up was about 30 miles from the entrance of this tunnel. So to me, that poses a lot of questions. I don't think this tunnel was 30 miles. I don't know where he walked, but where he entered, he ended up being picked up 30 miles down the road. A lot of questions that poses, but the first question that I have, you guys, is this. I've heard a lot of stories about Bigfoot. They can get down and they can get in that crouch and kind of look like a spider because, Bigfoot have been known to go on all four legs. I'm not saying this was even a Bigfoot, you guys. I think this is like a monster to me. I don't know what your guys' thoughts are. You can express them in chat if you would, but yeah, I mean, what do you guys think this was? And then for it to stand up, though, the thing that gets me is four-legged creature looks like a giant spider. Then all of a sudden, though, at the end of the tunnel, it's on two legs, staring and growling at him, yelling at him. Goes back into the cave. I think that my first thought is that he just didn't want this guy in his cave. Obviously, there's a dead deer carcass there. There were a lot of bones in there. This thing didn't want him to. He was he stumbled on his territory. It was probably his feeding ground. It's probably where he took his food back into the tunnel, the cave. Didn't want him there. I'm thinking this thing probably wasn't hungry because I could tell you what, I've had a Bigfoot experience, and a lot of people I talk to on Bigfoot Michigan Rob show, Bigfoot aren't you don't hear of a lot of attacks, but you do hear of a lot of them growling or yelling at you to get them away from you, scare 'em, to get you scared, get 'em away from your family or their food. So this has me perplexed. I've sent an email back to this guy to find out more. Of course, hasn't returned my email. I'm sure he will. But it's a crazy event. When I had my Bigfoot encounter some time ago, I was yelled at and screamed at, and I had found out later that I was in an area where his young was, this Bigfoot. The young was. That's why I had the encounter that I had, and it scared me off of the lake that I was fishing at. But I don't know. I the spider all fours and it stands up. What type of cryptid is that? I mean, I thought I'd just share that with you guys. I don't normally go live, but like I said, I was supposed to be in Vegas and personal event happened, and which is fine and good. But I had to do something today, right? And this encounter that I shared on Spaced Out Radio, I wanted to share to you guys because that was on at 2 o'clock in the morning. So I thought it'd be cool for you guys to come on in and check it out. And so anyway, I'm not going to sit here and elaborate on this story. I'm not using StreamYard. I can't pull up anybody to come on in and discuss it. But leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. If you think I should do more of these live streams, talk about the encounter stories that I get in for our show, I'd be more than willing to help you guys, or not help you guys, but share that with you, because, our channel is expanding. Texas Front Porch. We got the Cryptid Huntress on board, Jason McLean, myself. We're on 4 days a week, providing great insight for you guys, great stories, great researchers. And yeah, you know, I'll look forward to seeing what your comments are. I will reply back because I love talking to you guys. I hope you enjoyed this Friday night tale as much as I did. And and maybe I'll do more, but let me know. Hey, share this out. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't. Bigfoot, Michigan Rob. Share it with your friends. Texas from Porch, share it with your friends. I love doing this. I don't get anything out of it other than today. It made my day talking to you guys and talking about this. You know, I had the personal event that happened 36 hours ago. I was supposed to be partying and kicking Dave Scott's ass playing poker. For those of you that watch Space Style Radio, me and Dave had an ongoing friendly conversation back and forth about how we were going to take each other's money. That didn't happen. I'm sure he's doing well. I'm doing well. I appreciate everybody that came in and chat. I love you guys. Without you guys, I wouldn't do this. I do this for you guys, and I love it. I love you guys. Thank you. And before I leave, Kyle Ray, brother, I'll be getting in touch with you. Danny Staten, great guy. Boots on the ground with Barb. Freaky Geek, I just think I met you earlier today. Mopar Bill. Who else we got? Yeah, we had Drake, Kyle Ray, Gary Spike Sr., Richard Elmore. All you guys. If I miss you, I mean, I don't love you. But this is Bigfoot Michigan Rob. Please subscribe. Please like. Please share. Let me know if you want me to do this again. Leave it in the comments. You have a great weekend. Thanks for letting me come on and invade your internet webs. Have a great day. Thanks, guys.